morning, Sherry Kang. So this is starting to feel a lot like Trump's first term, right? When he threatened to put Powell's head on the block and then said, "Okay, no, we're not going to. I'm not going to fire him." And it seems like it's happening again.
Yeah, and also on the China front, the market heard what it wanted to hear: de-escalation in the near future, no decoupling with China, and I think the market might be skipping on some of the details on what Besson reportedly talked about, that this full deal that he was talking about with China could take a couple of years down the road. And what would that look like? Will China sign up for it? Lots of questions still out there. But first, let's recap the rebound on Wall Street overnight, because we saw a major reversal on a lot of risk asset classes, I should say. The major averages all closing more than 2% up, recouping most of the losses seen in the previous session. Tesla shares popping in extended trade after showing better than expected margin despite posting a 20% fall in auto sales in the first quarter. We'll talk more about the EV maker just a bit later in the show. U.S. futures also looking encouraging after U.S. President Donald Trump clarified that he has no intention of firing Jay Powell, despite criticizing the Fed chair for being slow to cut interest rates. Here is what he had to say earlier.
The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not. But it would be good timing. It could have taken place earlier. But no, I have no intention to fire him.
We're also seeing gains in shares of a U.S. tech in extended trade. Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, all sharply higher, as you can see on the board there. And Chinese tech stocks like Alibaba, JD.com, and PDD also popping after hours as well. This after President Trump softened his tone on China, telling reporters that he is ready to make a deal with Beijing. Take a listen.
We're going to be very nice. They're going to be very nice. And we'll see what happens. But ultimately, they have to make a deal, because otherwise they're not going to be able to deal in the United States. And we want them involved. But they have to, and other countries have to make a deal. And if they don't make a deal, we'll set the deal, because we're the ones that set the deal.
President Trump, they're saying that he wants to do a deal with China. Now, those comments are coming after the International Monetary Fund, IMF, warned the world's two biggest economies would be badly hurt by the trade war. The fund now projecting the U.S. economy is going to grow just 1.8% this year, with a 40% probability of recession. Meantime, China is seen growing just 4% this year. That's down from 4.6% before. Now, the fund also cutting its global growth forecast to 2.8% for 2025. Let's head straight out to Washington. Carolyn Roth is on the ground there at the spring meetings. And Carolyn, what is the latest?
Look, you won't be surprised to hear, Martin, that the mood here in Washington, D.C. is very somber. One participant telling me on the record this morning that this is the most tense spring meeting he has attended in recent memory. Now, of course, the finance ministers, the central bank governors of this world who are attending the spring meetings here in Washington this week, they have a couple questions on their mind. First of all, how badly is my country going to be hit by the global trade war? And secondly, how do I best navigate around that? What other countries do I forge trade deals with? And it's pretty clear, for example, the Europeans, they're looking east, not west. They're looking towards Indonesia, Malaysia, and China, even though, of course, they are concerned about dumping from the Chinese. And thirdly, and I think, Sherry and Martin, this is probably the most pivotal, the most consequential question of all, is the U.S. still a trusted ally? Is it still a reliable trading partner? And of course, the jury is still out on that. But there is a great deal of frustration here in Washington, D.C. as to the speed at which the U.S., the Trump administration, has upended the global world order on both trade and defense. And one final question people are wondering about, there's a lot of speculation about this. Is the Trump administration going to continue to support the IMF and the World Bank? Bank. Of course, it is the biggest shareholder. That's why the IMF is here in Washington, D.C. But obviously, we know Trump's dislike of global multinational institutions. Again, no decision on that just yet.